Content warning. Paradox Live includes themes of trauma, child abuse and neglect, violence, suicide, death, human experimentation, and gang activity. Viewer discretion is advised. Hey there, heads. I hope you're all having a great day today. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. I'm off script. I am talking off the top of my head. I wanted to be a little bit more loose and relaxed in sharing my thoughts on Paradox Live, AKYR, and Iori and Zen specifically. But in the interest of being concise and making points that lead somewhere, I put together a list of some of the things that I specifically want to talk about. Because my first time recording this video, it took me an hour and a half to record all the things I wanted to say, and most of them were tangents that did not go anywhere. So, with that being said, I want to give a little bit of background about myself. I've been in Paradox Live for about, I want to say a little bit more than 2 years now. I got into it the summer of 21. I want to say it was shortly after the Trap album had come out, or right around the time that the Trap album had come out, because I actively remember waiting for the fan translations of the live dramas when live dropped. With that being said, also, I do want to say that I am personally not actually fluent in Japanese. I actively utilize fan translations from Jackal, and also from the Paradox Live English team on Twitter. I always link their stuff in the description of the videos, because those are my sources, and also I want to make those sources available to other people who are interested in the series but are not fluent in Japanese. My own linguistic abilities in Japanese are relatively limited. I'm doing my best every day. But that being said, I kind of got into it because I was looking into voice actors. I think there are many Seiyu fans who kind of get into these sorts of projects because of the big names attached. And when I listened to Rap Gorilla, the song spoke to my soul, and I went, oh my god, this is it. This is everything. And from that point on, I've just been kind of consumed by it. And of course, of the original four groups, AKYR spoke to me the loudest because I'm a documented delinquent enjoyer. Anytime there is that Yankee character, the Japanese delinquent character, with usually they have that gaudy, tacky, in your face kind of look. And if they're like Yakuza, I love those kinds of characters as well. Ironically, I have never actually played the Yakuza games. I feel like people assume I do because I talk a lot about like AKYR and Yakuza things. But I actually have never played a single one. I'm like aware of them. I'm familiar with them. I have friends who have recommended them to me multiple times. I just have never got around to it because I'm not much of a gamer myself. I put the Easter eggs in for other people, I guess. That being said, so I'm immediately interested. I'm like, oh my god, I know my group because they're my people. So I was immediately drawn to their designs. And then, of course, once you get past the fact that they're Yakuza, even better than that, they also have this very, like, Yankee with a heart of gold, delinquent, but we're really nice, and they have this very domestic vibe, and they're like tweeting each other. They seem edgy and dangerous, but really deep down, they're just this wholesome family unit. And I think, honestly, I almost love that more. My favorites, probably in order of favoritism, are Zen, Iori, and Satsuki. Those are my top favorites. I like all of them, obviously. Reo is very funny to me. He is the ultimate little brother, comprised of every annoying characteristic from Little Brothers all around the world. Hokusai is there. He's just vibing. He's the capybara of the family. He is there to get along with everybody and to make everybody feel more at ease. He's fantastic. But to talk a little bit more specifically about why my favorites are my favorites, Satsuki he's a good kid. He's a hardworking kid. He helps out around the house. He has a very earnest side of him. He wants to do well. He wants to be recognized by people. He wants people to acknowledge him and to appreciate him for who he is. I feel that Satsuki really does have a learning disability of some kind. And I think this is heavily alluded to in the family drama, where he is, his family, his teachers, all these adults in his path have given up on him. They all kind of deemed him too troublesome or too much work or not worth helping, essentially. And to the point that his parents literally just left when he was in juvie, and when he got out, no one was there to pick him back up. And he was 15 at that time, which I think is heartbreaking. It's the gang members who take him in, Iori and the others, who are the first people to take the time to try to really teach him things. And they don't get exasperated, and they explain things over and over again, no matter how many times it takes him to learn things. He learns how to use keigo, so like formal language, learns how to use chopstick properly, all these other basic kind of functions. And I think that really speaks to this idea that a lot of these concepts were out of Satsuki's grasp because so many people just didn't take the time or bother to properly educate him or to try to reach him where he was. I think that a lot of people can relate to having different educational needs. And I really like that he's a genuinely good kid. Like, he has this kind of edginess about him because this is the way that he's coped in the past with feeling ostracized by his educators and his family. And his dream is to be a big man. And this isn't like a physical big man type thing. I mean, he does work out with Zen, but he wants to be a man that other people admire and look up to. And he really admires Iori, and he wants to kind of follow him in his footsteps in that way. I think that this really speaks a lot as well to Satsuki's character as his own. He really easily could be very jaded and angry at the world and angry at everyone around him. But I think we've seen again and again that he gets angry quickly, but he also lets it pass quickly and he moves on. And I think in a lot of ways as well, he is kind of the most grounded and sensible of the brothers, which is kind of interesting. I think that people don't necessarily think about it. But of the three of them, he's the one who has a consistent job, and he's the one who helps out around the house and is very aware of things like money and what's going on around him. And I think that's very endearing about him. So springboarding off of that, the other thing that I really like about AKYR, which is kind of an understated part, but I very much appreciate it as a person who feels very passionately about education of all kinds, I really like the fact that the AKYR boys are all night students. I was completely unaware until literally getting into the series that alternative high school options were extant in Japan. I had no idea because every time you watch any sort of anime or something, everyone just goes to normal high school. They wear the uniform, they go to class, they sit in class in their chairs, they take the notes and things like that. And granted, not to get into too much here, but, Japan does have some history with not being the most accommodating for, like, learning disabilities or other mental illnesses and things like that. And that's a whole nother topic, so to speak. But I really love the fact that all these guys, they're not seen as collectively stupid. I mean, Satsuki, it's kind of a joke that, like, oh, he's kind of dumb, because he also plays into the whole dumb but sweet-hearted delinquent trope. But even then, he has his moments of clarity and being rather astute in certain situations. But as a whole, they're not all painted as being stupid or incompetent. They just didn't get a chance to finish high school in a normal way, and this is what they're doing now instead. And granted, some of it also has to do with the fact that they're Yakuza family affiliates, and so they don't go to regular school like everyone else. But it's nice to see from, like, in my personal opinion, it's nice to see these alternate educational routes. Finally, I guess, talking about the boys, leads me into the final part about AKYR as a whole. I like how much of a family that AKYR is. I know that's like an easy cop-out answer, but it is very heartwarming. They have these very, like, edgy moments, and you have their, like, tragic backstory with this gangster raid shootout situation. But also you have moments where Iori and Zen are tweeting each other, oh, hey, Zen, you should make this for dinner. And you have one of my favorite recent Twitter exchanges was between Satsuki and Reo, where Reo committed the cardinal sin of little brothers, and not only was he getting on Satsuki's case about Satsuki having a cringy ass game save file name, but Reo deleted his save file game. in an act that my own younger brother once deleted my Pokemon Blue game save file, and however many years later, like I am 30 years old, I am still honestly, I have not fully forgiven him for that. I had Mewtwo, I had beaten the Elite Four, I was down in that cave with those legendary three birds, and that little deleted the whole thing. So the next time I booted up that game, all I had in my party was a Squirtle. It was a Squirtle. Worst of all. Anyway, so Satsuki, being a far more merciful person than I, ultimately relented. But so they're having this dispute on Twitter, and Zen jumps in and gives the most mother response imaginable. Basically, stop fighting, or I'm going to take it away from both of you. Those are the things that I love about AKYR and IoZen, that they really are functionally just like normal family. You notice throughout the narrative of the story that Zen tends to be the one to like scold the boys or kind of reprimand the boys. So whenever Reo and Satsuki usually are up to some nonsense, Zen is the one who eventually will step in and kind of mete out justice. He does that, I don't know, anime comical thing where he like punches the boys in the head. I mean, I'm not a big physical, discipline type person. But, I don't know. But that being said, the way that I personally interpret it, I think that Iori is not familiar with how a normal family functions. And I think that, like, in a flashback in Double Trouble, which is in the Shuffle Team show, there's a part where he talks about how he and Yohei were in a fight in the past and how the old man had kind of whooped their asses for it. And I think that, even though there is love obviously there, I do think that the former boss really loved Iori and really considered him his own son. I mean, Iori was able to take his family name, I want to say at the age of 17, so he's kind of like formally adopted. But it can't be ignored that this boss and Iori and Yohei are still in a Yakuza family. I don't think Iori is used to the machinations of a normal home life. He just kind of like joined this gang at 14. So it's hard to say. I would assume either no parents or just not a good home life, right? But then also, we know he was born into a Rakugo family, and he still likes to do Rakugo. And so I just assume he had kind of a normal upbringing and probably like a loving family. And so I think that on some level, when Iori is letting Zen handle these situations, I think it's because he trusts Zen to handle these things properly, like the way that a family would, and not in a way that Iori would, or rather that a Yakuza boss would. And I think that also in like a larger scale, there are many things that indicate to me personally, I don't think that Iori actually wants the boys to follow him in his footsteps. Iori and Yohei, when they were working as bodyguards at Club Candy, were about maybe 17 at the oldest. That's 2 years younger than Satsuki is. However, at this point, Iori doesn't have Satsuki working as a bodyguard. He has Satsuki working as like a wait staff at Club Candy. Or sometimes he also just does back of house kind of cleaning or maintenance type work. I think that he does it because he doesn't want to put Satsuki in that kind of situation. I think that Iori, in a lot of ways, really doesn't want these boys to be the same kind of person he is. I think he's very aware of the kind of person he is. And I think to some extent, I think that's why he doesn't let Zen do these things. Even though you have in the exhibition show, Zen is saying repeatedly, I will dirty my hands. I'm prepared to do whatever he asks of me. He says since like a long time, presumably since he joined the family, like the Yakuza family. He's like, since then, I've been prepared to do anything for him. And I think that Iori is very aware that he feels that way, and I think that he knows that Zen is a nice person, like a genuinely good person, and I don't think he wants to take advantage of that. I don't think he takes it lightly. And so I think part of the reason that Iori is the way he is that he is constantly trying to shield his family in a lot of ways by taking on the dirty work of being the Yakuza in the Yakuza family, of his entire Yakuza family. He is the singular gangster, if you will. So I guess I can get a little bit now into what I really like about Zen and Iori. I am a big fan of like couples, I guess, that can balance each other out. I think that they are really good foils for each other in a lot of different ways, and some of them are like more obvious than others. And some of them, I think, the more you think about the characters or you more get into it, the more that it kind of becomes apparent. So, well, I mean, for one, I think a glaring balance they have is you have Zen, who's a character who canonically terrible liar, cannot lie. He all of his emotions are on his face all the time. You know, he's just really bad at hiding his thoughts. And on the other hand, you have Iori, who is this character who is always hiding things. He is never telling anyone a straight answer in anything. He's dancing around stuff. I think it's a really interesting minor detail that if you listen to like the dramas, for example, anytime that somebody says something very earnest and emotionally straightforward to Iori, for example, in the family drama where Kanata goes to him and he's like, oh, look, I'm really sorry about what I said yesterday. Please help me find my brother. And Iori's completely caught off guard. He makes this weird like, oh, noise because he doesn't really know how to respond. This happens again in the exhibition drama where he's talking to Yohei, and Yohei is like, without you and the old man, I would have never pursued music. Thank you so much, really, for what you did back then. And Iori's like, dude, that's cringy. And then later on in the exhibition show, again, when Zen's like, I'll accept whatever you give me, basically, Iori's just like, oh, yeah. And I think that this is kind of like really interesting from a character point of view. I think Iori, it mentions even in his character summary that he's a guy who's been in the underworld for so long that his moral compass is kind of skewed. And I think that also to some extent, he's a guy who's been lying or kind of not saying the full truth to people for so long that when he is confronted with very open emotion like that, he doesn't really know what to do. And so I think that that makes a character like Zen go with him so well, because I think that in a weird way, he would baffle Iori, who's so used to being kind of on this certain level of like people not telling the full truth to each other. And so when you have a character who can do nothing but tell the truth, I think that's a really cool companion to a character like Iori. I personally cannot look at Iori and Zen and go like, yes, this is a normal pair of heterosexual men who have just chosen to cohabitate and raise a family together. There are just a lot of elements of the characters. I mean, literally, they have the corresponding Phantom Metal illusions. Iori's Phantom Metal illusion is representative of Raijin, the god of thunder. Zen's is representative of Fujin, the god of wind. They're like brother deities, and they're often depicted together. And so it's kind of like they're a matching set in that sense. They have rings that they wear that are on the same finger of the same hand, on both of their right hands, on their middle fingers. When the artists remember to do it, I think it's really interesting. Generally, in the official art, one or the other of them are looking at each other, and I think that's like cute. I like to believe. And I mean, again, for these other larger issues, they have complementary personality types in this way. Zen is a guy who was raised from a young age to dislike Yakuza. He has this really strong sense of justice and morality. And then you have his complete foil, Iori, who has basically been raised as a Yakuza. He has this very cloudy, very gray morality. He can't tell things honestly. He's really bad at this kind of stuff. But they manage to kind of work together in this interesting way. They bounce off each other really well. They've fallen in with each other in this very kind of natural domestic sort of way. Iori sleeps late, Zen gets up and makes breakfast for the boys. Zen refers to or defers to Iori a lot for things, but Iori also says in more than one place that Zen's attitude also saves him in a way. I think that it's really interesting. First off, if we look at this completely in the lens of they're just heterosexual friends who cohabitate, I think it's very funny because from Iori's perspective, I could see why you might have someone like Zen around, right? Zen is a large, physically intimidating man. He's capable, right? He's fairly rational. I mean, he's emotional, but he's not like dumb. He doofy, but I wouldn't say he's dumb, like unintelligent. He was a former police officer, so he has some level of awareness for like the way the law works and maybe even local police and things like that. So he has insight, and he also has like this kind of level of competence to him that makes him like a valuable right hand man. From Zen, I don't know how bad his situation at the police station must have been, but it must have been something if he went undercover with a Yakuza family and went, gosh, these guys got the right idea. Dang. Like, literally it's that meme, like, I'm switching side. Like, that's Zen.
Switching sides.
And I think it's really funny because in the series it's stated something like, quote, he fell in love with the spirit of Suiseki Gumi, unquote. Where, from me, obviously I'm sitting there going like, right, he fell in love with the spirit of the Yakuza and not with with a Yakuza. Gotcha, I got it. Right, just platonic, only heterosexual friends here. But like, yeah, from Zen's perspective, he is not gaining much. He's lost his steady income, his public reputation, possibly has had to cut off ties with his family to distance them from gang underworld stuff. He's now engaging in criminal behavior, which now puts him afoul of the law. He has completely ruined past friendships, just by switching sides. And he now is essentially Mr. Mom to this gang of misfits, where he, cooks and cleans and takes care of the house and the boys for his life partner, buddy, who sleeps till noon because he's up all night doing shady stuff. So I feel like from Zen's perspective, like, it's very hard for me anyway to look at it and go like, yeah, this is just a normal platonic guys being dudes thing. Like, this is, to me, I think it's like really apparent in general that Zen has feelings for Iori. I can't imagine a way to read the character of Zen without assuming that he has romantic feelings for Iori. Not only are there the things that I just mentioned about him joining, like, switching sides, but in the light novel, it's revealed that Zen took a bullet for Iori. So when he was undercover, at some point there's a shootout, and he actually physically takes a bullet, like jumps in front of a bullet, to save Iori's life. And Iori comments that it caught him off guard because this cop was taking a bullet for a gangster like him. And Zen is like, oh my god, I can't believe you knew I was a cop, but everyone knew. But also, in the same conversation, Iori has a framed photo of himself and Yohei as like teenagers on his desk. In like typical anime fashion, there's like the photo where the adult character has the picture of him as like teenager with his old friends in a way that mirrors the relationships of the teenagers he works with today, right? They're talking about how Reo and Satsuki are always fighting, and Iori's like, sometimes the closer you are to people, the more you fight, and that's how you make friends then. And he looks like, at his photo of him and Yohei, remembering the times they used to fight as kids. And Zen is like not happy about it. Like, he gets like all like kind of huffy about it. And later on then Zen is kind of like emotional. He's like, I can't believe that you've let me be your right hand man, even though Kanbayashi-san's left the gang. And Iori's like, why do I feel like I'm talking to my girl about an ex? And that's literally in the light novel. You also have a part in Justice. I did cut some things for time, obviously, in these videos because they're just summaries. There is a part in Justice though where then when they're having the flashback about him and Iori as teenagers, he makes a comment like, "Back then I was all bronze and no brain." And like Zen busts in, he's like, "Well, if Waka needs brawn, I'm right here." And then obviously at the end as well, you have that moment where Yohei's like, "Hey, take care of Iori," and Zen's like, "You don't even have to tell me, like, I know." Anyway, and you also have this other part in I mean, look, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. I don't want to get into the Road to Legend content, because if I will, or if I do, that's a whole nother thing. But anyway, so yeah, I think that's kind of most of my thoughts. I don't want this to be like a 45-minute video or something. It's probably going to be kind of long because I have been rambling at my phone now without a script for quite a while. Doing subtitles for this is going to be a pain in the ass. I'm so sorry. But I hope you've gotten something out of this. I really love this topic. If you ever want to talk about it with me, please contact me through Twitter DMs or through YouTube comments or I don't know, wherever else you can find me. Um, if you would like to potentially read a fanfiction that I wrote, well, okay. If you have interest in reading Iori and Zen fanfiction, I have written um I'm going to say last I checked, I like almost half of the content on AO3 tagged with EOZen is in fact written by yours truly. If you would like to read a multi-chapter Wild West AU fanfiction in which Iori is a so like a sketchy saloon owner and Zen is a disgraced deputy, I have that for you. Or if you would like to read my personal kind of headcanon imaginings of Zen's time undercover with Suiseki Gumi, I'm writing that right now. I think I just put out the 21st chapter of it. I'm not sure how many chapters there will be. I have roughly about 27 chapters planned right now, roughly timelined out. So if that would pique your interest and you haven't already read those, potentially, I would encourage you to check them out. Um, obviously, I've also written many one shots. But with that being said, guys, thank you so much for listening to my delusional and long-winded rambles. I hope that you have enjoyed. I will hopefully get to writing the script for Love and Vibes. I should be able to get through that pretty soon, and then I'm not really sure how it'll work because obviously I'm going to be traveling as an American. I will be traveling over the Thanksgiving week across states to go visit family. So sometime in there, I'm hoping to write the script, record it, and then I'm not sure when I'm going to get to the video editing, but at some point I will get that done. I'd like to get it out before or around the time that the Vibes episode is coming out in the anime. Um, but yeah, thank you for listening. Have a great day.